welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix original film from 2021. It's their 410th film, the French action comedy called The Last Mercenary. This one is directed by David Charhon and stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, Alban Ivanov, Assa, Sylla, and Samir, Decazza. I am Jesse. I am your host. Thank you for joining me here today for another one of our special bonus episodes that we're putting out over this Christmas festive season as a gift to our listeners. As always, if this is a film that you haven't seen yet and you're interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because this one does star Jean-Claude Van Damme. So maybe you do want to see this one. Other than that, we're going to get into the show where we kick off with the Fast Flicks, a quick little summary of what the film's all about. So this one, it's about a rogue mercenary who comes out of hiding to protect his estranged son, who's been confused as an arms dealer. There we go. Intriguing. Hopefully that's intrigued you. As is the case sometimes with international films, it's a bit hard to find anything out about the making of this film, but this stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, who is a Belgian actor. So this is a French film, but he's a Belgian actor, and he's known to mix French and English in his films, in his interviews, and obviously in this film, his character does the same thing. And I just thought it was interesting. His nickname is the Muscles from Brussels. I thought that was cool. I'm sure many people that are fans of him would know that, but I thought that was pretty cool. So The Last Mercenary, I tied off in the Fast Flicks what that relates to, but around the world, some other translations. In Hungarian and Hindi, it's called The Last Secret Agent. Yep, that makes sense. In Slovenian, it's called The Last Tenant. Okay, sure. And in Turkish, it's called Retired Agent. So again, all play on that idea of him being a bit of an agent or a mercenary at some stage. The tagline for this film was the daddy of all secret agents. Not bad, because this does play into the idea a lot about being a father and what that can possibly mean at times too. On Netflix, the logline they had for this was, an elusive secret agent known only as the Mist is forced out of hiding after 25 years to protect his son, who's never met him. There we go. Very nice. And then while you're watching on Netflix, what it also said was, a legendary secret agent turned mercenary comes out of hiding to save the son he's never met. Learning how to be a dad may be his toughest mission yet. There you go. Again, the idea of what it means to be a dad. So this did come out on Netflix on the 30th of July, 2021. And this was filmed in Paris, in and around France, as well as in Kiev in Ukraine. So there we go as well. A bit of an international production. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? What's it got ratings for? On Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have it at 56%. That's on 25 reviews, so that is rotten. Audience even lower at 37%. That's on more than 100 ratings. So not looking good so far. What about IMDb? It's got 10,000 ratings, 5.3 out of 10 from the audiences. A little bit low too. Letterboxd, again, low, 2.4 out of 5 on 5,500 ratings, but it's been logged by nearly 7,500 people. On Metacritic, it sits in yellow on that traffic light system of red, yellow, and green. 9 critic reviews, it's got a 48 out of 100, and the audience has it a 5.5 out of 10 on 17 reviews. So again, we're on that low end side. So are you going to enjoy my ramblings on this film? What are my early thoughts? Well, my early thoughts are, I actually thought this was really funny. Yes, Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's old, he's aging, he's not what he used to be, but I found him really funny, and I thought this film was fast-moving and fun and worth a watch. So I'm going the opposite way to what people are saying. Maybe I'm just becoming a little bit delusional at the back end of this year, but I enjoyed this film. So let's talk about some of the characters. Some of the characters in this film. So, the Mist, Richard Brimier, this is Jean-Claude Van Damme. Obviously, as I've already said, a former Secret Service agent who's now working as a rogue mercenary. And he holds this legendary status, I guess, and everyone seems to have a wild story about his past. But this film is about his, his lack of connection with his son and why he's had that lack of connection because of his work. And it's not that he doesn't want to see his son, but the idea that he hasn't been able to. So that's where the conflict is going to occur with Archibald, his son, who has no idea he still has a dad. He's been raised by this guy called Fernand, who he sees as his own father. And when Richard does rock up and reveal that he is his dad, he doesn't want a bar of it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. And I guess we sort of see that Archibald, or Archie, is a bit of a spoiled brat. And yes, he gets this... his dad, because of his dad's work, he's been granted this regular payment, almost a pension from the government, as well as immunity. But he's a bit of a spoiled brat. He sells drugs on the side to get by, and he's out of depth and has a fear of danger. So there are some things that he can grow and develop by spending some time with his actual dad too. The other characters in the film that play a little bit of a role. So Simon is this over-the-top gangster who is obsessed with Scarface and thinks he's Tony Montana, really. He's the guy that uses Archie's name and is cashing his check and doing things like that. So that's how he gets involved in this film. And his sort of boss is Paul Lazure, who's this middle sort of man who works in a bureaucratic office with Alexandre Lazare. And this Lazare guy, he comes across as this real dumb bureaucrat whose interest in Archibald and his dad Richard sort of cracks the whole film open, and he ends up being used and abused by the corrupt officials. But he does turn sides, and I guess he's Paul's boss, but Paul is using him to do his dodgy work. So that's how Paul ties in as well. We meet this lady called Marguerite along the way. She's an acquaintance of Richard who supports him early on, but is the decoy villain at the end of this film as well. And the other side characters, I guess, is this Commandant Gerard. He's this leader who's working from the military side of things, desperately trying to take Richard down because he doesn't want the secret that he knows to get out, but he's got this personal grudge to do with his manhood pretty much. And then the other two characters that join Richard and Archibald and Lazare on this sort of adventure, Dahlia and her brother Momo. And they live in the same apartment block as Archie. And they almost become these sidekicks for this story too. So there you go. There's a summary of the characters. The director, David Charhon, he's got 12 directing credits. They're all in French. He does have a film from 2025, however, which is called The Gardener and also stars Jean-Claude Van Damme. So there you go. A little bit of a project that they've come back to work together on again. All right, what are some scenes that work? What are some scenes that don't work in this film? The things that work for me, the opening shot of Richard getting this hostage, he's doing his mercenary work. It's a bit of an introduction of him as a character. There's this hostage with a bag over his head. Richard's there to save him, doesn't believe it. This guy with a bag over his head runs around the room, knocks himself out, and then Richard puts him on like this hospital bed stretcher on wheels and just wheels him straight out the window. I thought that was quite funny. I had a good laugh. Simon's opening police chase, going through the day into the night. He's yawning. He's so tired of all these people chasing him. He stops to take a leak on the side of the road, and he makes all these references about the size of his penis to the police officers. It was just crass and over the top. Archie being oblivious to Fernand's worry about the cover being blown. He just doesn't understand, and Fernand's like, the cops are coming, and Archie's like, well, and this Fernand guy's a little bit old, and he's like, well, have you got weed too? That was just humorous too. Richard and Archie, they get on the run from the cops. They're in a car. They disguise themselves in like a learner driver car, and the chat between the two was quite nice. Just this introduction without revealing that he's his dad, and then there's lots of chaos that occurs, and Richard tells Archie, well, you failed the test. That was quite clever. Gerard's rant about Richard banging his wife and how she was still glowing for 8 weeks. And there's a follow-up later on about him having a micro penis and not having the right tools for his wife. Just humorous. I saw this criticized in a lot of reviews I read, but Alejandre or Lazare being used as a decoy, and he's on the phone to Richard, like he's in the middle of this meeting location, in the middle of a busy touristy sort of location. He's on the phone to Richard saying that there's no cops with me, but there's obviously police everywhere. And then Richard on the phone makes him take his clothes off and ride through Paris in his underpants on a scooter. And then Richard just puts him in this ice cream cart box. I thought it was funny, so I thought that scene was good. Richard decides to send Lazare back to work after going in his decoy with him, and he's like, well, I've got to send you back, but I've got to pretend that I beat you up. I need to give you some bruises so it doesn't look suspicious. And there's a cut to Lazare going back into work, and everyone looking shocked, and he can't speak properly, and he's mumbling, and someone's like, well, is that the Bantu African dialect? And then he tries to do this composite sketch of Richard or the Mist, and with his beat up face talking, and one of the guys, when they see the sketch, is like, oh, it looks like Homer Simpson. It just was all funny. And then he gets back in the truck and says something that no one else understands except Richard, and I thought that was quite funny. They go to hide, the crew. So Richard and Archie and Lazare and Momo and all of those people, they go and hide in a pole dancing club. And Momo says, I love the pole. I also liked Momo's persistence on getting Richard to give him a gun. That was just funny too. they have this Operation Pool Day where Marguerite is playing a character that's swimming in the pool that Richard's trying to teach, and he literally nearly drowns her. That was quite funny. There's these random girls that rock up in golden bikinis to fight Archie, and then Richard comes in and takes them out with towels and other bits and pieces, and it's followed by Dahlia electrocuting them. That was good. Richard dresses as a woman and out as disguise and tells Archie to hold him. That was quite humorous. And this big fight in this video game type room was super cool too. So lots of things I liked. Only things I didn't like. Richard apparently can do voices and imitate others. I thought that was a bit far-fetched. And the hero shots of the misfit band of mercenaries also. It was a bit overused, but I guess it was a little bit funny. Other than that, what else was the film trying to say? What are some themes? What are some ideas? It obviously plays on that father-son relationship, reconciliation, the idea of feeling let down, and trying to move past the feeling of abandonment and the difficulty at times in speaking and saying what you mean, and sometimes writing a letter won't cut it. And plays into honesty, and it's hard at times to tell the truth, but if you don't, things can often get worse too. And this is through Jean-Claude Van Damme, but age and realizing what you once were and what you are now, and that idea of working in secret organizations and needing to remove personal feelings so you don't compromise yourself, and finally that idea that do the best at life and with what you have. And I enjoyed all that. I thought it was really good. What else did I take away from this film? There's this gaming room scene at the end, and Jean-Claude Van Damme walks in, and there's all these film posters, really cool, and he stops and looks at this poster for Bloodsport, one of his breakout films, and sort of this meta recognition. I thought that was cool. Some other questions, some pondering, some thoughts, some ideas. I think that this mission that they were trying to cover up was called Cup and Balls. And was this mission really going to be that big a disaster that if it went public, it really mattered, considering the immunity and the money that the government had spent on Archie? I just thought that was a little bit wild. There's a scene where Richard goes to Ferdinand's and Archie's place after he's trying to find them, and he unlocks this secret vault door out the back. It just really confused me, because at the start, Ferdinand and Archie, why didn't they just go there in the first place instead of trying to run? I don't know. That was funny. And the post-credit scene, I understand it's a personal touch for the director, but I just thought it was a little bit weird. There was text on the screen saying, "It's for my beloved mum, Miriam Charhon, who's dreamed so much of seeing the mercenary in action." And then it cuts to this post-credit scene in hospital where Archie is now a dad with... is now a dad. And I thought it was a little bit weird, because obviously it sort of showed that... Richard rocks up and he's filming it, and he's like, "I told you I'd be there for big moments in my life." So that idea that he's still doing his mercenary work and hasn't rekindled with his son, I don't know. I feel like that was the message of the film. But then on the screen, it's like, "Welcome, baby Josh, my little mercenary, 27th of March, 2021. So obviously the director's had a child and tied in this scene to make it a dedication to his son, which is nice. But that post-credit scene sort of goes against that idea of rekindling with your son. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm ready to wrap this one up. I did enjoy this film, so I think it's a bit of a blast. You can sit back, you can relax, watch some fun action, have a few good laughs, and you're going to enjoy this. I enjoyed it. So I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. Solid score from me. We're on socials. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. The question I wanted to ask, I want to put these two people against each other. Are you a Jean-Claude Van Damme or an Arnie Schwarzenegger fan? I honestly, and I just put this here because I don't think I've seen a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme films. I've seen a lot of Arnie films, so maybe I need to go back and watch some films of him in his prime, and I might enjoy those as well. Other than that, we are still putting out 2 episodes a week in the lead up to Christmas. The next episode, I think, it's Christmas Day, so this will be our last little Christmas special, but our next one is the 2021 teen rom-com called The Kissing Booth 3. This is directed by Vince Marcello and stars Joey King, Joel Courtney, Jacob Elordi, Taylor Zarkar, Perez, Maisie Richardson-Sellers, Megan Young, and Molly Ringwald. That's what we've got. That's our last little episode that's coming out on Christmas. Give that a watch if you haven't seen it or don't remember it, or don't remember our previous 2 episodes on the first 2 Kissing Booth films too, because from memory, I'm not a big fan. We'll have to wait and see on Christmas if my day is made. Other than that, thanks for joining us today, and I will see you next episode.